Give up? Melvin, you're not gonna give up your dreams that easy, are you? If your show's no good, then learn some new tricks and make it good. We'll even help you out. You can do it. What do you say? Hey, actually, you could learn a lot from this podcast.
Hey, I'm Veronica Taylor.
And I'm Rena Taylor.
And this is
The Trainer's Guide. Today's episode,
March of the Exeggutor Squad.
Welcome back, everybody. We are at episode 40
Woohoo!
already.
Double digits.
Amazing. Yeah, double digit. I really thought you were like,
Oh, yeah, that too.
Which, that would be a good intro.
Yeah. I should have done that for the Diglett episode. Dang.
Dig.
Dig, dig, dig.
That would be a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Also, that's kind of a good way to introduce this carnival atmosphere that we are entering into in this episode.
I know. This is where if we're not filming this week's episode, but we should have dressed up in our carnival outfits with like frilly collars and everything.
It would have
a la Ash
been
and Brock,
great
because
you could imagine it.
Season 2.
I love a good carnival. I love the, especially in this, everyone's in costumes and there's all these rides and the big top. I love a circus, a carnival. I don't know. I really love this episode.
I know.
For how fun it is, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, so we start, we're just kind of getting right into it, but we start with Ash, Misty, and Brock. They are in this town and they've arrived just in time for the big carnival. And they're so excited, and Ash and Brock decide to show him how it's done and really
Ash
party.
Goes, let's show them how to party.
Yeah.
And then they like rip off their real clothes and they're wearing tuxedos and frilly shirts.
Right, which I've seen that photo like on the internet, but I didn't know what it was from. And
I forgot too.
Did not disappoint.
No, and it is actually on some cards. That's where we've seen it. And
right.
Misty's
That's
outfit in this, too, is also on cards. And I had no idea when they wore these. The sad thing is they really only wear it for that one shot of them getting ready to party. And then they're not in those clothes ever again.
Yeah, it's really upsetting because I would have liked to see more of the outfits. But again, like, where do they keep all this stuff? And it's like, that's the kind of thing that I feel like this is when you're going to summer camp, and you know how at those summer camps, like sleepover camps, they will have like a tie-dye day or they have themed days. And it's like, what do you pack? Because you're going away for 2 weeks at least, and then you know that there's going to be like activity days or like a day where you have to wear a certain color. And like, how do you know what to bring? And like, what motivated Ash and Brock, both when they were packing up for their journeys separately, to go, oh, this will come in handy. I'm going to bring like a shirt with a frilly collar and like an orange suit.
I find this interesting, your line of thinking, because both of us only anecdotally know what people do at summer camp because neither of us have ever been to a sleepaway camp.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing.
From
but secondly,
Parent Trap.
Yes, I know, exactly, from movies. But they also always give you a list of things to bring. So for camp, you would know what to bring. For real life, you don't. You have to wing it. And that is the second thing I find interesting, that I totally accept that they just have these things. And every week you're like, where do they keep it?
I know.
I
think as a viewer, I accept it. But because we have to talk about it, I want to know. You know?
Well, I think you should let yourself go into the world of wonder and amazement that magicians offer us, because we do meet Melvin, the magician, having an argument with his assistant next. But it all figures into just the wonder of the carnival and how do they even throw up the big top and then start the show. I mean, when I was on tour, it was similar. We would unpack the truck in the morning, set up the whole set, and then do the show at night magically, and then take it all down and go to the next town. So maybe that's kind of why I accept these more. You got to go on the road.
But that's my thing. I have like a fear. I have fear of missing out and fear of missing out in terms of outfits. Like I have a fear of not having the perfect outfit for every occasion. And I think that's where my overpacking when I travel comes in. Because I'm like, well, maybe I'll need this.
That's why we only wear black while we're traveling, because it goes with everything.
I know. Maybe I need to start packing only in a backpack. And maybe that'll really help me narrow down my packing.
Yeah, like Felix the cat with that bag. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what we need, more magic.
Yeah, or just a Mary Poppins bag. But I would want a backpack. I don't think I'd want to carry with those handles. You know what I mean?
You can have it.
Thank you.
I will get that for you.
Thank you.
My tiny little sweetheart.
Thank you, Mommy. But
so
yeah, speaking
one
of
the
other
things I love
that
is
start with M.
Misty is on the swings, my favorite swings at the carnival. She's on that ride. She's on a ponytail merry-go-round. It's amazing. And then she comes upon Melvin and his assistant in a giant fight.
Right. And the assistant doesn't want to do his act anymore and is being mean and, saying nobody likes your stuff anyway, blah, blah, blah. And Melvin is this kind of like round magician who, I don't know, he's a little dopey. What'd you say?
He's a kind of a Woody Allen type, nebbishy kind of, I feel like he wants to be magical, but he's so held down to the logical reality of life that he doesn't rise above.
He doesn't have the flair for the dramatic in the sense
he doesn't.
He's very real in a way.
And so he is dashed by his assistant leaving, but then Misty finds him and immediately he's pleading with her to help him.
And this is a little creepy to me, but, I think it's just whatever, because he's just this man and she's this girl and he's like, you're my only hope. I'm devastated. Please help me. And she's like, okay. Anyway, so I feel like in real life, I would have probably run away. But Misty is nicer than some of us and more trusting.
He does produce that magical flower.
Yes, he does.
That I think is what woos her.
Yes, she is definitely suspicious.
She says, but she doesn't realize what being his assistant will entail, I don't think.
My favorite part about that interaction, and he goes, you're a kind person, aren't you? Or like, you look like a kind person. And she goes, no, not especially. I just love that.
But he goes, bear with me. Let me explain my whole dream to you.
Right.
And so he says he wants to be a famous magician and have his own Las Vegas show.
Right. Which is very specific.
Anyway, very specific. But anyway, they go into the big top. She has this amazing dress.
A gold
white dress.
Outfit, right?
Yeah, which is, I think so.
Because I think the other assistant was dressed as like a Vulpix. It looked like.
Oh yeah, you know what? I didn't realize that.
She had those little ears, and I was like, oh, I think that might be a Vulpix or something.
I'm gonna have to go back.
And then, I think Misty's in a Goldine with the white, and orange. I think it's Goldine.
It's a great assistant
Oh
outfit.
yeah, she looks
and
fab.
Much to her chagrin, Ash and Brock show up
in
their regular clothes.
Yeah,
but to a very sparsely attended audience.
Right.
And we can see them later. They're just kind of a bunch of ruffians actually sitting out there. Mm-hmm. One guy has like the toothpick out of his mouth, and all these guys are just start the show. You know, all this stuff. Anyway, they do start.
They start, and it's off to a rough start. It doesn't really go as planned. And he's doing some things, and he brings out Exeggutor, which is his Pokemon, and they're like a clump of eggs. Some broken, some not.
Yeah.
With faces.
Some worse for wear, as they say. Yeah, and it's interesting that it's an egg-type Pokemon, but also is the seed of a plant.
Right.
So that's I don't know. That's such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And he attempts to juggle them.
He's juggling them, and everyone's like, this is boring. And even Brock is like, boring or something. Even he heckles, joins in on the heckling, which I was surprised about.
Nobody likes it.
Nobody likes it.
I think Melvin, in his desperation, he says, hang on. This next trick will sumaze and apprise you.
Right.
Because he's so flustered.
Yes.
Instead of amaze and surprise, which I might try using in my real life because it's funny.
Yeah, I think that's good.
But what's not funny is that his next trick is just shooting fire out of his magical wand.
Right.
Everywhere.
His baton, yeah. And he's shooting fire and it works. And so then he like kind of goes a little power hungry and or power crazy, I guess, because he just starts shooting fire everywhere and it sets off the fire alarm. And then we see him getting fired, basically, by the...
Right, because all the sprinklers have turned on, which luckily they had sprinklers in that big tub.
Yeah, in a tent, which you wouldn't think. But this is a safety-first zone.
It totally is.
So
the manager comes out, he gets fired.
He gets fired.
Fire brings firing.
Exactly. It always does, so be careful.
Right.
And then he basically gives up. Melvin says, I'm not going to do this anymore. This isn't working for me. And then that's kind of where we get at the beginning of this podcast episode. We hear Ash kind of trying to instill a sense of, pride and determination in Melvin of saying, you can't give up. You've got to get better. Work
let's
on a new
figure
routine.
Something else out.
So yeah, we kind of have a montage of new routine stuff following this.
Yeah, well, Ash comes out as the Swami.
Right. So strange. So strange.
First of all, we do see Team Rocket floating over in the Meowth head balloon. And the two of them are sunbathing on top. And Jessie says... James says, looks like they're talking to a magician. And she says, just wait till they see our bag of tricks. Yeah. Which I realize they don't have any bag of tricks.
No.
As we see later.
Yeah.
I feel like they, on the opposite side, have so much confidence in themselves.
Right.
So they're just like, oh, we'll get to it. We'll defeat them. Don't worry. And they're still sunbathing away.
On the head of the balloon.
I know. So
it's amazing.
It is amazing. I think they're the epitome of kind of winging it. So they either get up there and they'll be fine,
and
they'll
faking
defeat
it
people
till you make it too.
Totally true.
Yeah. But that is definitely, you can see the difference. The confidence that they have really it keeps them going. And I think if they didn't think so highly of themselves, they wouldn't be able to keep getting defeated and get back up again. Like, I think you see Melvin, he doesn't believe in himself. And so immediately at every point that he gets pushed down, or like not even all the way down, every time he gets pushed, he is like, oh, that's it. I'm done.
Yes.
And he throws in the chips. And I think, obviously you have to have some balance. Like, you can't be like Team Rocket all the time and think you're so amazing and better than everyone else. But you do have to believe in yourself. I mean, that's right. Ash is a great example of that, is that, he knows what he's capable of. And to that point, he knows when he's not able to do it, right? But he still is confident in himself and his abilities and his friends and his Pokemon, and knowing that he can... some of that confidence comes from asking for help. If you can't do it, instead of giving up,
I think that's the best point.
You have to, you find somebody who can help you, and you keep going.
That's right. That goes along with his curiosity and his desire to keep learning.
Right.
So, which I don't know that Melvin has that exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And in this, Ash, in his as the Swami. He's got this great costume on, and he's like, oh, here's something. I'm going to put on a Pokemon magic show. And he has this box, magic box, and he says, fire, appear. And fire comes out of the box. Water, appear. And water comes out. And we do see that he has his Pokemon in the box.
It's a great
shooting
idea.
Water and fire out.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, except that Charmander's tail has fire on it, and in such close quarters, he starts burning everybody.
So it doesn't really end according to plan because everybody kind of is fighting, and then everybody ends up getting burned.
Right.
But, it's a great try, and Ash looked very Aladdin-like.
It was
really
amazing.
giving
I love the
Aladdin
costume.
vibes.
Again, we only see that for a short scene, so it's somewhat wasted, but at least we have that in our minds.
I do think, though, for that outfit, he must have borrowed it. I think he probably got that outfit from the circus. I don't think he's carrying that around.
Yeah, the costume closet.
Right. Yeah.
That's there.
That is answered. That answers that portion of it.
I'm glad that you're satisfied.
Thank you
with that.
And then
the next thing we see, Exeggutor are there, and Ash is kind of staring at them in his burntness, and they start shifting back and forth.
Well,
and he's like, "Why are you staring at me?"
Yeah, and because basically he is trying to, after kind of not being able to successfully do his own magic trick, he's looking at Melvin's Pokemon, Exeggutor, and he's basically like, oh yeah, they don't really do that much, do they? And I think in that sense, then they kind of get offended. And so then they clump together and they hypnotize him. Which I was kind of confused after this because Melvin's facial expression, because he then orders Ash to turn around 3 times and act like a Bulbasaur and something. And then something clicks in his mind and he's like, I've got it. But I don't know.
Right
away,
it
looked
clicks.
like Melvin kind of, in that sense, his eyes were kind of squinty and it kind of looked like he knew what was happening the whole time. But I think the Exeggutor hypnotized Ash on their own. But I don't know. I get weird vibes from him.
No, they did it on their own, but once he realized what was happening, everything clicked together.
But he kind of knew that they hypnotized him right away, which I thought was shocking.
He's fast thinking.
Yeah.
He may not have confidence, but he's fast with his evil plans.
Yeah, exactly.
I think. And he gets Ash to pull a wagon because he, quote, he hates to do this to you, Ash, but I hate exercise.
Right.
So he gets Ash to pull the wagon with him on it out to where all of the Exeggutor are.
Right. Leaving Misty and Brock, who have no idea what just happened. And we get to this kind of open field, and there look to be a lot of trees. But when we open the Pokédex, we see that they're actually coconut trees. They're Exeggutor, which are a coconut Pokemon.
It says a walking tropical rainforest.
Yeah.
They are a coconut Pokemon. Each coconut has a distinct face and character.
Crazy.
Which is interesting. And from looking at it, I guess each head on each tree has a distinct face.
Yeah, I think there's 4 of them.
Yes, and they all, those faces are replicated on each tree.
Yeah.
Basic, each Pokemon.
Yeah.
But so I guess 4 heads are better than 1.
Absolutely.
Perhaps.
Absolutely. But actually maybe not. I don't know. This episode kind of brings that up.
They don't do a lot except to hypnotize people and run around.
Their only thing that they do is hypnotize.
In this episode, they probably have other great qualities, but in this episode, they just hypnotize and stampede.
Yeah. I mean, I think their only attack is or at least in the Pokédex, it says their main thing is hypnosis.
That's right. So Melvin decides to get Ash to battle with his three Pokemon because Pikachu is doing other things.
Pikachu's with Misty.
being an assistant.
Yeah.
Magician's assistant. So he gets Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur to fight these Exeggutor, and as they weaken, Melvin captures them gleefully.
Yeah. And Melvin basically captures all of them. He's got so many.
Yes. His evil plan is that he will use them to then hypnotize all the people in the town so that they will be captive audience members.
Yeah,
for
they'll
him.
come, and then he makes them come to his show, which is, in a
that's the
sense,
plan.
a good plan. But also, like, I was thinking, why don't you just do, like, a hypnosis act, right? Like, why don't you just
that's a good
hypnotize
idea.
somebody, and then, but it doesn't seem like from this that we really know how to break the spell. Because I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like there's an attack for the executor. Like, I don't think you can say, okay, executor, hypnosis. And then I don't think you can say, okay, now, like, bring them back. Because Ash, when he finally gets revived, it's Pikachu thunder shocking him.
Right,
And
but
then,
wouldn't you have to be, this is all in the training. I mean, if you were the magician, you would have to, you would have to teach them and work together.
Sure.
There would have to be a way. But
You'd
anyway.
have to find a way. But I'm just saying, I think there is like other forces that you have to do, but it doesn't seem like, at least from this perspective, that there's an order that you can say, okay, now.
I would hazard to guess that Melvin has not thought that far ahead.
No.
He's just saying, I need a big audience because it's like the more likes you have, the more followers you have, the more work you'll get. So if he has a bunch of people in the audience, maybe the Las Vegas scout will see.
Yeah.
And then bring him to Las Vegas.
Well,
I feel
totally.
like that's it.
I think
he doesn't
you're right.
care about the audience.
Well, no, he does not. He doesn't care about
Which he
anybody
should.
but himself because he's making Ash do all this stuff. He's making Ash's Pokemon do all this stuff for him. And he doesn't really show any kind of, he's just thinking about, what he wants.
That's right, which is never a good
dastardly.
plan.
But then the more dastardly people come in, and we have Team Rocket, who
dressed like magicians.
I know. They come in and they start doing their whole motto, and Melvin is like, wow, they're better magicians than I am. And
they even look better than I do.
Yeah, and he's
amazing.
Enamored by their, quote, act.
They have a box that they get into, and Meowth pulls the cloth off the top, and they've disappeared.
I know.
Amazing.
They do. They are pretty great. That is truly a fact. But then Melvin's like, you guys are better than I am. And they're like, yep, that's right. You're a terrible magician, but you're good at catching Exeggutor. So now we're going to take all of them. And they tie...
And you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they tie Melvin up. And then Melvin's execute... because they're like, get out of the way. And then James says, I'll knock the cholesterol out of you. Classic.
So funny. Very funny, which you can't do that to an egg. You can't knock the cholesterol out.
And
but
does
it's hilarious.
the execute have cholesterol because it's technically a seed?
I don't think
Plant-based.
so.
Hello.
But who knows?
Vegans,
So
get in on this.
That's right. The execute evolves.
It evolves
right there into
right in front
an
of their
exeggutor.
eyes. Yes, and then it hypnotizes them. But in doing so, somehow all the exeggutor get hypnotized. So everybody's getting hypnotized, except for Melvin, magically. But Team Rocket gets hypnotized, and all of the recently captured exeggutor, they all fall under hypnosis. And so... in doing so, somehow it just triggers them to like run off. And so they just start this huge stampede going to the carnival.
Right.
Which is crazy. And Ash, Misty, and Brock show up after they've all left, and they shock Ash back into reality. And then they're like, what have you done, Melvin? And he's like, oh, they've gone. I can't control them anymore. Ugh. And then they're like, you have to come with us. So they all run to the carnival, and it's been destroyed. The exeggutor have already run through it.
They've stampeded and knocked everything down.
Yeah.
And the owner comes out and says, I've planted a time bomb in the field to stop them, which I don't know how he thought that was a good idea.
I know. I don't know.
But anyway, that's
These
a weird
carnival
spot
people,
that's in this.
That's just what their modus operandi.
I guess so.
They just, we've got a problem to solve, time bomb.
Right. So Ash, of course, says, I don't think that's a great idea. So he gets Squirtle to try to water gun, but they actually like that. He gets Bulbasaur to do Razor Leaf, and it's pruning them. And then Charmander with rapid fire flamethrower.
Yeah.
And finally starts to weaken them.
Yeah.
But not enough.
Well, the fire weakens them and brings them out of the trance. So we see that the flames are what kind of wake them up and get them out of the hypnosis. But Charmander is too small and not strong enough to blast all of the herd of Exeggutor with fire. So it's trying its best, but it's not going to... Some of them are going to get to the bomb before, they can be woken up. So Misty, who's really, pretty great in this episode, even though she says she's not very nice in the beginning, she is quite kind-hearted and really motivated by helping others and protecting Pokemon. And she goes to Melvin and she's like, you've got to do your magic trick. You have to use the fire from your fire baton to help wake up these Pokemon. And Melvin, again, is like, oh, I can't. I'm not good enough. I know I can't do it. I know I can't. And she's like, yes, you can. Look at Charmander trying so hard. Like, if you have to at least try. And finally, he's like, okay, I will. And he, together with Charmander, they wake everyone up. They send this huge blast of fire.
The raging fire.
Yeah, across the whole herd.
Yeah, and the whole herd turns around and runs off.
Yep, with Team Rocket.
In the middle of them.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
And so, everybody's excited, and he gets reunited with his new Exeggutor. And then... Do you want to say what happens next?
You can say it.
No, you say it.
Charmander evolves into Charmeleon.
Oh, crazy.
We get our first evolution.
I know.
Really, of the starters.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
It's huge.
And then and then that's basically it. Everyone congratulates it, and then off they go.
Yeah, off on their journey. Melvin is going to work on himself and his act. And Jesse and James are getting, they're still within the mix of all these Exeggutor, which I feel like, they've got to first get out of the herd of the stampede. But seems like they're in a pretty good place because they wanted to capture the Pokemon anyway. So my question is, Melvin captured them in his Pokeballs and then I guess let them all out again. So
yes.
Technically, could they capture, are those Exeggutor that ran off, are they his? Or can Team Rocket, battle one and capture one?
I think it's, everything is fair game.
That's what I thought.
It's got to be fair game. But I think if you capture a Pokemon and then it runs off, you've never trained it, so I don't know that you can actually lay claim to it.
Yeah, because that's even when Ash captured the Primeape, once he let Primeape out, it still kind of was punching people, but it listened to Ash kind of right after it got caught. So I just wonder, I don't know. I've never thought about it until this exact moment, but I wonder what that is. But maybe it's also just based off of the Pokemon. The Pokemon know.
I think it has to be.
Okay, I'm getting caught.
It's all your relationship.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just part of that they just know. So these Exeggutor don't know. They don't really know. They're not.
Yeah.
They know it wasn't a fair capture.
That's right. That's right.
I
think
that's interesting.
Well, and it is interesting. We'll have to think more on it.
Yes.
And surely more will be revealed in the next episode.
That's true. But I do feel like this is a great chance for Jesse and James. They're still with the Exeggutor. So they still have a shot at capturing one and getting their plan fulfilled of then hypnotizing other Pokemon. I'm
true.
Just saying it's still possible.
And yet, I have a feeling we'll never know. Because
we'll never know.
These episodes end, and that's the end.
Yeah, that's true.
But they do have a great opportunity, but perhaps their bag of tricks is back at the Meowth balloon.
Absolutely.
So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's in the basket.
And so then we end our episode with our trio saying goodbye to Melvin with never forget your dreams, practice makes perfect, see you in Las Vegas, which I think is actually the main message of this whole episode, really, is that you do have to follow your dreams, but you have to do something. You can't just think about it and wish for it, but you have to actually do something.
Right. You have to find a way to put it into action. And also in that sense to be willing to not necessarily fully change, but know when you must kind of make adjustments to your course.
Yeah, that's right. I think, too, it brings to mind all of these Olympic athletes, who have a goal of being their very best. And there's so much that they give up in their normal lives for practice and the pain of it all and the exhilaration, of course, of winning or achieving the goals to get you to something like the Olympics or, all of the trials that have gotten you there. But your course is not always set. Mm-hmm. You do have to be flexible so that you can work around an injury. You can work with the climate, with, maybe your track is closed and you have to run somewhere else, or the pool isn't, I don't know, on and on we could go with this, but you have to be flexible and you have to be able to change when you need to. Mm-hmm. Though all of those gymnasts, that what they've been able to put themselves through, and then when you think about mentally what it takes to achieve your goals, all of those triathletes we were just watching, you can name any sport and it's just incredible, but you have to be able to really like mind over matter and work your body and also be a good sportsman in the, on the other side of it. It's all very Pokemon related if you look at it that way.
Yeah, totally. It's all about being your best, being your best self.
It is. Yeah. And you win and lose, but you also, you're not always your personal best. So you have to account to yourself first.
Right.
And then to the scoreboard. Yeah. Essentially. I thought it was really interesting too. These Olympics were the most branded Olympics.
Yeah. It's amazing.
With the most designer, famous designer branded uniforms and all of this stuff. It's just for Paris, for being such a fashion capital, that they had all of these designers involved. Yeah. So fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. I've never thought about that before, but you're so right. It's really interesting.
Well, I did hear about that on the radio, of course, on NPR. And I also heard on NPR that Flava Flav, he heard that the U.S. women's water polo team, that they couldn't afford to go to the Olympics because they all have 3 jobs and, they have real lives. And he sponsored them.
Yeah, I know. I love that story. I love it.
It's an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. It just shows you the power. Well, this is another Pokemon movie, but the power of one.
Yeah.
The difference he was able to make for them. But that's the other side of it, too, is that most of these Olympians, they get there on their own dime.
Right.
So they have to be sponsored by someone or figure out something or what they're giving up to get there. It's all, it's just amazing. And then there they are, some people competing for seconds.
Yeah, I know.
And that's their only shot.
Yeah, I know. I just can't even imagine. It's so amazing and so nerve-wracking.
Exactly.
So stressful.
Exactly. I guess the last thing that I wanted to say was it's interesting to me that we have this episode about these coconut trees when one of the biggest memes right now is of Kamala Harris, who is at the moment running for president in the United States. The quote that has been made into a meme is something that her mother would say to her when she was little and kind of acting up. And she would say, the mother, Kamala's mother, says, "I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Yeah.
You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you," which I think is so profound in the sense of you didn't just land here. You are your history. You are your immediate past. You are your immediate family. You are your ancestors. You are all that they have worked for and worked towards. And you are in this moment. And so you have to be aware of that you connect with your past and that you are rooted in your community, that you use your resources, that you think outside of your little box of yourself and engage, because your experience is not unique to you. And you have all these people around you who can help you. Yeah. And that, I think, if only our little Melvin the magician could think beyond, he could have gotten help. He could have connected with people, even his assistant in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Maybe if he had connected with her in a different way, he would be further along in achieving his goals.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, exactly. But that's the thing, is that we all need other people to help us. And I think that understanding that, the idea is that, I think the idea that our experience isn't unique to us is a positive, because it means that you can find others that understand exactly where you're coming from, or understand the moment that you're in, or have been through that before. And so the idea is all about building that community and finding a community of people, of diverse people who have the same experience as you, people who don't. You have to, you can't just surround yourself all the time with like-minded people, because you'll never grow. And I think specifically, it's just him and his Exeggutor at the beginning. And so only with his friendship of Ash, Misty, and Brock does he then kind of get that motivation and get that push. Having other people also believe in him, he gets that push to say, you know what, I think I can do it. And
that's right.
You
Isn't
need
it the
that.
same as the Olympians too? You compete against people from around the world, and that brings us all together in such a powerful way.
Totally.
Yeah, we need each other. We are one world.
Yes.
After all.
Coconut tree.
I think this is coconut tree. Anyway, I think this is a good time for the Poke Wrap Up,
where we hear from you, the Pokemon community.
We asked you to send in your Pokemon stories, inspirations, and memories.
And here is this week's. This week we hear from Laura, who lives in Michigan, and she writes, I was first introduced to Pokemon through the anime. I think I caught the Gloom episode on TV before school one day. The first season has such a great balance of humor, heart, and adventure. Pokemon has continued to be a driving force for joy and inspiration for me all these years later. My dream is to illustrate for the Pokemon trading card game someday.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing that memory with us, and good luck to you. And we'd like to hear from everyone.
Email us a short recording or write to us at trainersguidepod@gmail.com.
And try to keep it short, maybe 30 seconds or so, because we don't want to have to edit.
Oh, and please include your first name and where you're from.
Well, that about wraps up today's episode of The Trainer's Guide. And, as they say, to be continued. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey that is The Trainer's Guide.
As you know, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening now.
And if you subscribe, comment, and rate the podcast, it helps others find the show and keeps us on the air.
Thank you so much in advance for your generosity and all of your amazing support.
Trainer's Guide is a production of Boom Integrated.
We are co-executive producing this along with
the amazing Adrian Glover
and the incomparable Robin Lai. I'm your host, Veronica Taylor.
And I'm your host, Rena Taylor.
And this has been The Trainer's Guide. We'll see you out there on the road.